From inception, you can't pay your dollar tax unless the government has provided some dollars. What this means is the government needs to spend the dollars so that you can pay taxes. In other words, the logic tells us that the spending comes before the government can collect the taxes. Because you can't pay your taxes until you've got the dollars. If the dollars come from government spending, the government needs to spend before you pay your tax. So logically, the government doesn't spend taxes. Logically, the government spends so you can pay taxes. The spending has to come first. What that means is taxes actually don't finance government spending. Okay? Now, of course, if the government has been spending for years and years and years, a lot of dollars can accumulate in the hands of the non-government sector. Okay, and so that you have accumulated dollars that you can pay taxes with. However, they all came from the government spending originally. So once we've developed a monetary economy and there's lots of dollars in circulation, then this logic becomes less apparent. You say, well, saying, I have a lot of dollars, I can pay my tax. I don't need to wait for the government to spend. But the government had to spend from inception in order to get the dollars into the economy so that taxes could be paid. The sovereign government that the sovereign government that issues its own currency cannot be revenue constrained because it issues the dollars as it spends. If it wants to spend more, it issues more currency. It can't be revenue constrained. It can't run out of its own currency. If you issue your own currency, you can't run out. Uncle Sam can't run out of his own currency. He never needs to borrow his own currency. And in fact, if you think about it, borrowing your own currency would make no sense. It would be like you've written an IOU to your neighbor. I owe you a cup of sugar. And you find out you need another cup of sugar. Are you going to go try to borrow that IOU back from your neighbor in order to get another cup of sugar? No, you're going to write another IOU. Okay? So I'll come back to this, but sovereign countries don't need to borrow their own currency. In fact, there's no balance sheet operation that you can show me in which someone borrows back their own IOU. Okay? And this was Warren Mosler's brilliant observation. Bond sales are not a borrowing operation. They're something else entirely. So I'll come back to explain what that is. Now, sometimes countries borrow in foreign currency. Okay? And you can borrow foreign currencies. Again, the problem with borrowing foreign currencies is that you have to pay back in the foreign currency. And so that will constrain your domestic policy space. So I would say almost always it's a bad idea for governments to issue debt in a foreign currency because that is similar to adopting a fixed exchange rate. You're going to have to operate your economy in such a way that you can get the foreign currency to service the debt. It does face constraints. The main constraint it faces is the resource constraint. It can run out of resources to buy. It can push up the prices of resources. So too much government spending can cause inflation, okay, as people have long argued. But it can't cause insolvency. It can't cause insolvency of the government. It can't cause the government to run out. So the fourth point is, there is no solvency risk for a government that issues its own currency. There is no possibility of bankruptcy. When President Obama tells us that the U.S. government has run out of currency, he is misinformed. Can't happen. The U.S. government can always issue more. It's not possible to run out. There's no chance that running budget deficits, spending more than tax revenue, is going to bankrupt the United States government. Can't happen, because we can always issue more. We can always make all payments as they come due.